Until about 36 years ago, women were expected to become homemakers, mothers, and doting wives to their husbands. I say 36 years because in 1980, women finally made up the majority of American undergraduate students to better their lives with an education. These changes began to occur after the 1963 release of Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique, in the words of feminist author Germaine Greer. Both The Feminine Mystique and the compelling words of Germaine Greer probed many women with the challenging question, is this all there is? For many women, like Ruth Knott's Weekly, it wasn't all there was. Ruth's story is told by her youngest daughter, Sue, who touches on the hardships of her mother's life, like Ruth's father denying her going to high school in person, having to take care of her father and her brothers after her mother's passing, and many more instances throughout Ruth's life. Here's Ruth's story I've titled 3 Steps Forward, 1 Step Back, to aid envisioning the progress Ruth made to better herself. But in one instance, she took a step back and lived with the repercussions without complaint for the rest of her years.
Her name's Ruth Marguerite McCartney, Knott's Weekly. She was born in 1913, the oldest of 4 children, the younger 3 being boys. She has just told me as a child growing up, of course, they lived on a farm. She had to help with outside chores, taking care of animals and so forth, and also helping in the house with the cooking and cleaning. Her high school education she got through through the mail. My grandfather would not let her go to high school because she was a girl and she didn't need to go to high school, but she wanted a high school education, and he finally told her if she found this place that she could do it through the mail, do her classes and all through the mail, and he told her, well, if she wanted to do that, that would be okay, but he did not want her. Of course, they lived out in the country, and she would have to come into town to go to high school, and he did not think she needed to be doing that. Then when she finished her high school work, there was a lady that lived in town that needed someone to come and stay with her and do laundry and help do clothes or her housework. So she got a job with her to help take care of her. And I'm not just sure when she got married. It was, I can't remember what year she got married. Then when she got married, my father and her built a little house. And prior to my sister being born, my grandmother became very ill and was not able to get up and do anything. She had what they at that time called dropsy. I think it's congestive heart failure, but she was swollen and her legs oozed fluid, and my mother went over to take care of her, and then I'm not sure what year my grandmother died. I think she died right before my sister was born. But my mother's 2 youngest brothers were just young teenagers at that time. So she more or less helped with them. They could take care of themselves to a certain extent, but they kind of relied on her as a mother figure. She didn't work. I mean, at that time she was just a housewife and, of course, became the mother. And then I was born in 1942, and in August, and when I was 5 months old is when my father left home. When my father left home, she didn't have any, as far as I know, no income, and I'm not sure how we lived.
When Sue was 3 years old, her mom took a cooking job in the school in her community. In addition to working, Ruth still had the farm duties to attend to, where they raised chickens and they milked cows. In order to make ends meet, they had to raise gardens and make butter and cottage cheese and take them into town to sell. Ruth did all of these things while playing the role of a mother and a father.
Oh, and she did a lot of baking too, and would take that stuff to town to be sold. My grandfather was a somewhat carpenter. My mother learned a lot from him. A lot of the housework, she could always repair anything around the house, or she would, if she needed a piece of furniture, she could find lumber or whatever, and she could build herself whatever she needed. My mother was a strong woman. She, of course, after my father left, had to be a mother and a father. She just didn't really depend on other people to do the things that needed to be done.
So as you can see, that the probing question, "Is this all there is?" wasn't the correct question to ask our nation's women. In Ruth's case, being a homemaker, wife, and mother wasn't her everyday life. She was a homemaker, a cook, a confidant, a mother, a father, a farmer, and an abandoned spouse, as well as doing many other jobs. Ruth was playing multiple roles that were meant for two people. So maybe the challenging question, "Is this all there is?" was aimed at the stereotypical family that has a mother, father, and children, because it certainly shouldn't have been meant for Ruth Knott's Weekly.